Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shaded Pixels podcast. I am one of your hosts who is currently
pointing.
Yes.
Yeah. Leveling something.
Leveling, yes. I'm your host.
We do stuff here, people. We talk about video games and we break down
stuff.
Break down topics about video games, break them down to their shades and their pixels. And look, I can't even get this right when I'm supposed to be hosting. So,
all right. Up
to their boxers and their briefs, whatever. It's the same difference.
All right. Up above me is Esteban Cuevas. I told you I'd fuck this up.
Beautifully.
Hi, I'm Stephen Caves.
And Stephen Caves.
All right, AKA Colorwind.
Yes, hi.
The other person, whose name I will probably not butcher, is BJ Brown, aka Bunny 3000.
Hello. How art thou?
You know what? I'm gonna just bring this up. What is the J for?
James.
Oh, I
You know what the B's for?
Yeah, Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that.
But yeah, it's crazy because it's Benjamin James Brown Jr. So all together now.
Fucking name. Part of your name is James Brown?
Yes, it is.
All right, that's great.
So, brother number one, what's up, y'all?
Yeah.
Keep on talking so that people will distract from the fact that I fucked up the intro.
Yeah.
Trust me, they'll never forget.
Never forget. All right. So,
okay.
for those of you who have not seen our previous podcast, we talked
This is how it goes.
Yeah. We talked about how we deal with the summer gaming drought, with the slow drip of games out of the oasis. But really, should there be a drought of games? Is it good for the industry? Should the industry continue through? And what impact does the gaming drought have on us? So, one of you two handle this.
Well, it's kind of weird because at this point we're used to it, right? Like the summer drought. The summer drought has been a thing for. I mean, as far as I can remember, knowing about when video games are being released, you know. So now there's been a few years where that has not been the case, where there actually have been a lot of big games that come out in the summer. But yeah, for the most,
it's not a regular trend.
I think it is a regular trend. I think every summer there's like a drought. It's with very
no. I mean
exceptions.
the whole having a big release drop in the summer.
Oh,
or something.
Yeah,
that's
not
a regular trend.
That's not a regular trend. That's not something that
it happens, but it's not a regular trend. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like every once in a while, like the only thing I can think of, like from my childhood, is that the Super Nintendo released in August.
It's one way to do it.
So there's that, and I wasn't even paying attention to video games yet. So there you go. That's just something I happen to know. But yeah, so at this point, it can't be argued that the video game industry can definitely survive doing this.
Nah, I think it's gonna die.
No, or that, yeah, that can also happen.
Big energy's going down.
One of the biggest things about the summer gaming drought, as it is right now, is that if you compare it to other mediums, say for example, movies, summer season is their biggest season. There's a reason why you have summer blockbusters, and usually you have dead months between in like early fall, so like August, September, and then you also have kind of a dead area in January, the infamous January dumping grounds.
Yeah.
Where you usually have your shitty horror movies. Whereas TV, you kind of have a similar thing to what gaming does.
That's actually true. Yeah, the summer is TV's dumping ground, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this about TV.
Sometimes
TV
you get lucky.
TV has definitely morphed in the last maybe 4 or 5 years thanks to Netflix. So it's not 100% accurate anymore. I think in the past it used to be, but nowadays, because of streaming and everything, I think it's going to reverse that trend, and there's going to be like regular big, not necessarily big name, but noticeable name series are going to release year round.
I don't know about that, but I think what we can say is network television has a summer drought.
Definitely. Yeah. Network television.
Television. The summers where they drop stuff that they have no faith in, essentially. And sometimes there's good stuff comes from that, but usually that's when the stuff they don't care about happens. You could also,
but as they start competing with the series and stuff that other outlets are using,
streaming
like
services.
Yeah, like Stars, Power just started their season in the summer. Netflix had Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Glow, that's a big one.
Yeah, Glow started also. I think the networks are going to start reversing their trend, but that's a different industry.
One last comparison I'll make is I feel like music stuff starts to slow down during the summer too. However,
it picks up, and you kidding me?
In terms of album releases, I feel like a lot of bad albums seem to come out during this time. However, when it comes to singles, you always got to have that summer hit.
See, the reason I disagree with that is because a lot of times during the summer months, and I mean even like this summer is spring, you had Jay-Z and Beyonce's album. I mean, that was pretty big for that genre.
That did not do well.
It's not whether or not it did well. It was a big name release. If you've got a big artist like that, they're gonna make a big hoopla about it. Kanye dropped his, Nas dropped his, so you're gonna have big names that are gonna.
I know what you're trying to say, but you're also making a bunch of bad examples, because all of those were lukewarm to bad, and then also Kanye's been dropping a new release of some kind for like 2 months.
Well, the thing that you have to remember is, regardless of how well they did, they're still big name, big ticket artists that they're putting promotion behind. So they planned their releases. How well they do is not of consequence. It's in terms of planning, because that also goes to what our topic is, the summer, summer drought.
Yeah,
so a lot of companies are doing the same thing. They're strategizing when they're going to do their releases. Right? Yeah. So, a lot of companies are kind of using this time or this little period in here to kind of drop their alphas, their open and their closed betas, so that they can get those little networking kinks out before they drop in the big time shopping bonanza of the last 3 months of the year.
If anything else, the summer sometimes is treated as sort of like the send off or the testing for something else. So we actually mentioned this, I believe, last week. And during the summer, usually the last DLC for the big shooters come out. So your Call of Duty and Battlefields, if there was a Battlefield that year, usually have their last DLC packs. You get a lot of betas during the summer, but it is weird. Even though we're used to it and everything, it is weird that there's not a lot more big releases during the summer. I think that's because there's this prevailing opinion that when summer comes around, people like to go outside, and they like to go on vacation. They like to go to the beach. They like to go outside. I think that's the prevailing opinion. Now, I can already tell from the way that you're kind of moving your head back and forth and making faces that that's not actually true, and I agree with you. This is an old way of thinking, that people just like to go outside during the summer, and people in actuality usually don't go, or they're unable to, because they're freaking poor, or it's too goddamn hot.
Yeah, man.
And
sun's hot.
And it would really benefit people, or rather, it would really benefit companies to actually release certain games during this time, because $60 is cheaper than hundreds of dollars for a vacation, or even just maybe $100 or $200 just to go to the beach and make sure you have blankets and umbrellas and enough to get yourself food and just gas money and all that.
But I think, and I still think this is also flawed thinking. I still think that companies are still planning their year around Black Friday. So they're taking whatever their flagship title is that they have on their books. They book it for one of roughly 2 to 3 months, either November, October, or September, so that they can get that first month or so of sales, and also kind of extend it just a bit. So, like, if you kind of think about it, in my opinion, October's the perfect month, because you get that, you get that breathing room to kind of have people see whether it's good or not, see if it's popular or not or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that first month of October gets extended into November because of Black Friday. And if you're really, really charged up, think you're hot shiznit, you do it in September. You know what I mean? Then use all of September, all of October, and then get another big boost in November. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because most video games see most of the profits that they're going to make within the first month. But if you do it in October, and you get essentially a second month where you can have the same amount of profits or whatever because of Black Friday. Mm-hmm. My answer to that, though, and you first off, I should say you're absolutely right, BJ. You're absolutely right, 100%. But there's another way that they could be, if that's how they want to look at it. You can do that in the summer too if you just design your release around the Steam sale, the Steam summer sale, or Amazon Prime Day that just happened.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of times, that's a gamble also. Because when you have your initial release, you don't want it to release around the time when you're having big sales because you want them people to buy that jobber at full price when it comes out. So if you release it at the Steam sale, people are looking for the deals. They're looking for the sales.
Well,
they'll see something that's a new release. They'll see something that's a new release, but they'll go, you know what? I'm here for the sales. I'm going to wait on that so I can get this other one that's over here for $10 or whatever. You know what I mean? They run that risk.
Well, that's what I mean, though. You can go, like, you could, in other words, we should be seeing, like, a shit ton of new releases in June. Then comes July, and then that's usually, or the very end of June, that's when we see the Steam summer sale. In July, we get Amazon Prime Day. And then Sony usually does something around this time, too. I believe they had their summer sale at the beginning of the month.
See,
so
I kind of agree with you, but not necessarily because of the Steam sale. It baffles me why companies don't use E3 more to their advantage. Mm-hmm. It really does. Because E3 is such a blockbuster event where they unveil and reveal stuff and they get you hungry for stuff. Mm-hmm. So, in my mind, some of the most memorable moments in E3 history are when they announce something and then all of a sudden they just say, and it's available right now. And everybody goes, and they just go, oh my God, this is good. I gotta go get it. I mean, it could be the worst game in the world. Not necessarily the worst game in the world, but it could be like overhyped or whatever. But guess what? You hyped up people enough to watch it at E3 with the trailer and the fireworks on the presentation and all other kind of stuff. And whoever, who was like one of the big names, Jeffrey Gordon. What the heck is his name? Gordon Levitt. Whatever
Jason Gordon-Levitt.
Jason Gordon-Levitt, that dude.
Yeah.
You get him to announce your game and go, "Oh my God, it's out!" He said it's out, and then more explosion.
Okay. First, there's. Okay, let me just say one thing real quick. Number one.
Yes, I don't know his name. I'm sorry.
One, I think the reason why people don't do that is because the very first E3 had something like that when Sega released the Sega Saturn same day, and it bit them in the ass because they pissed off all the stores because they couldn't get stock.
There are no stores anymore. There's no stores.
That's true.
We don't have stores anymore.
But the video game industry doesn't know that. They're still beholden to a lot of stores for some reason, even though they have their own stores. Okay, and secondly,
this is why they should listen to us.
The only reason why they seem to do that is when they have games that are like free, like Fallout Shelter. So they don't do that.
So in which case it doesn't matter. Download it now on your phone.
Yeah. Or hey, you need Quake Champions, go get it for free right now or whatever. But yeah. But I don't know. What do you think, Shawn?
I think starting with E3, I think you kind of like hit a big nail. The fact that the gaming industry not only sells their games during that time, but they've built up their announcements and everything else around the winter, the holiday season. If you think
I need that like Jamaican air horn right now. The whole Jamaican air horn would be perfect right there. Sorry.
You have E3 where you start announcing your game. You start announcing shit. Then throughout those summer months into things like Gamescom, that's where you have, you know, your trailer 2s. That's where you continue that hype and you get those open betas and those alphas and all that shit out there. And then you sell your games.
Then the fall comes and that's when you sell it, yeah.
Then in December, you have the Game Awards. That's when you have those end of the year lists where people say, "Oh, here's the best game of 2018.
Game Awards.
The best shooter, the best action adventure, the best PS4, the best PC." That's when you have those gaming accolades out there. So you're really hitting this hot button, be like, "Hey, this game released about a month ago. You know, you can still ride that hype train with the whole, this game won, you know, best in show with Game Informer or whatever." Because if you say,
you know what,
it was pretty hyped up at E3, it's just like,
that's probably a great topic for us to have one day, whether or not having the Video Game Awards in December is the right time of year for them to do it.
I think, well, everyone else does it with their own publications, so probably yes, but we can talk about that.
And the only reason why I say that is because you think about a lot of other industries, movies and music and stuff, they don't do it in December at the end of the year. They wait, and it's like around in the first quarter of the year. Yeah. Because if you do all that kind of stuff and start giving awards, you miss out on all that opportunity to buy stuff because people already got all their stuff in December to give out as gifts. You know what I mean?
I am glad that you said that, though, because something I was about to say is, however, here's the thing: the video game industry does do that on something, because Shawn was saying this, that they can ride that high. The movie industry releases all the movies that they think have the chance to win awards at the end of the year.
Right before the award season.
The blockbusters, the ones that are going to make them a whole bunch of money, but are, at least I guess to them, not award winners, go in the summer. And then the ones that are the
artsy fartsy,
that are artsy fartsy, going to get critical acclaim, they go at the end. Whereas the video game industry doesn't seem to understand that difference. So they think that their big blockbusters are the ones that are going to win them awards, and that's why they put them all at the end of the year.
Well, you're
doing the same thing.
At what different industries consider award worthy at that time? Because
yeah, true.
The Oscar bait movies, those are going to be your serious dramas. Name me a comedy that has won Best Oscar or Best Picture at the Oscars.
There is one, but I can't think of it right now.
I think one recently, right? And I think that's what blew everyone's mind. It was like,
wasn't it? Well, I know that for some stupid reason, people were like categorizing Get Out as a comedy.
Oh yeah, that pissed me off. I was like, "You kidding me? Seriously?" Yeah. But yeah, they did do that. Yeah,
that's a documentary, isn't it?
No, they had it. They had it in that. They argued that they had it in best. Wasn't it in like best comedy musical?
Yeah. Okay, first off, it's dumb that they put comedy and musical together.
Yeah, something like that.
But yes,
that was hilarious.
Yeah, but anyway, back to video games. Why are we having trouble talking about video games on this? We keep getting sidetracked to other.
Well, it's because we compare it to other industries. It's relevant. It's still relevant.
It's relevant. Yeah. That's true. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, but like you're also traditionally your dramas, traditionally more like thrillers and things like that. They're and more of the kind of feel good, heartwarming movies. They're less
MTV
feel good.
Then you get your MTV Movie Awards, and they're just nowhere near that.
Actually, that makes more sense now. Think about it, because the movie awards is usually like around the summer blockbusters, and that's who they're going to be catering to.
Yep.
Although it's still weird to me that MTV does movie awards. It's never made sense to me.
Yeah.
It made sense to me back in the '90s, but it's kind of lost its flavor.
Yeah.
But, okay.
But yeah, it's the type of movies that kind of go more for the awards, whereas your summer blockbuster season, you're not going to see too many of those. You're still going to have some, just like you still have your comedies and your blockbusters around the end of the year. But you're mostly going to see your Avengers or your Mission Impossibles.
Yeah.
but you're going to see some of those, and then you see the Oscar rates come in, and then it kind of goes with an ebb and a flow. Whereas,
or maybe like some sort of combination of the two. Like when was Braveheart released?
No, maybe it's going to be the spring. I'm going to just like eat all my words. Just nom 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 nom.
May 24th. Anyway. That's technically part of the summer Blockbuster season. So there you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
By the way, my thing doesn't freak out now when I have my browser up.
Awesome. Whereas going back to gaming, it seems like the summer. It seems like gaming kind of falls in a different different ebb and flow. Whereas the spring and summer months, you see more indie games coming out and more of the smaller games. Whereas, of course, the winter you get those big blockbuster releases. Not to say that you can't have great games coming out during the summer. The Last of Us released in the summer, right after E3. That's one big example. But traditionally, you'll see that kind of weird ebb and flow.
I think I should say something that maybe someone in our audience will say, just because I think we're gonna have something on there. You throw me off, man. Look, we're good. I'm paying attention. Okay. We keep comparing the video game industry to the movie industry and a little bit to the music industry, and it should be said that at the end of the day, the video game industry is very different from all the other ones, and that maybe these comparisons aren't really good comparisons as a result. The only reason why I think we make them, though, and especially to the movie industry, is because a lot of the stuff that the big companies do, for better or for worse, is trying to emulate the movie industry, because I feel like that's what the video game industry wants it to be. Like they try to make they want blockbusters. You know, there's not really a blockbuster book or an album. You know, they have like big releases, but you don't call them blockbuster albums. You know.
I would argue with that one, actually.
I mean, look, there's big albums. There's big albums. I'm not saying that, but it's not. They don't. An album isn't positioned the way a movie is to be a blockbuster. That's what I mean by that. There are huge albums, but they're not blockbuster ones. There are a few exceptions, like even like recently, right now, huge ass freaking Drake album drops. Right, freaking 2 discs, hour-and-a-half monstrosity that it is, and that's exactly what it is. But moving on. You know what? That's not fair. I haven't heard all of it.
It's
how could I? It's an hour and a half on 2 freaking discs. Drake isn't interesting enough for an hour and a half. Look. I like Nice for What. I like the song they did with the remains of Michael Jackson. As sad as that is, but still.
Yeah, it was good. Honestly, I think the only reason why he did 2 discs is because he was trying to get out of his record deal. But that's another story.
Okay. But they don't take cues from the music industry. You know, the video game industry, I don't think really does that. That's not really the model. The movie industry, I think, is what they see as the model. And I'm talking about big companies like your EAs, your Activisions, your Ubisofts. That's the way that they see it, and because they're so big, that's the way that the industry tends to go. Because they're so big that they can move it in that direction. Indies, smaller developers like your THQ Nordic.
All of them, they're like, release it as soon as we can get it on the market. I don't care.
Yeah,
we need money.
Yeah, we need money. It should be fine. There's a few exceptions. Sometimes maybe it seems better if they would do that, like that Friday the 13th game. They should have done that during October. They released it in May
I know,
instead.
right? I was wondering that myself.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you do that? Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the game's not going to be worked on anymore, so.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And it's not even their fault. It's a dumb lawsuit, but anyway.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
So sad.
But the comparison is being made for that reason, and it's for that very reason that I think we had the Summer Drought to begin with. Now, we say there's not a lot of big releases during this time, but if you here's the thing though. If you went looking at some of the releases that come out, I'm sure you'll find something that you'll enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about older games per se. I mean, I could be, like I mentioned this last episode as well. We have the Mega Man X collection coming out next week. That's an old game, even though it's a new release.
You have Sonic Mania Plus.
Yep, that just came out today. But I mean, I'm also enjoying it. And there's also other games that are coming out. Like, for example, in case you haven't played it, this is quite popular if you watch a lot of YouTube. There's Guts and Glory. It's a game where you go around these obstacle courses and they kill the hell out of you. It kind of reminds me of Happy Wheels, but in 3D. That's coming to consoles this week. So there's something else for you to play as well. There was last week we had a brand new, completely brand new, even though it looks old, Octopath Traveler, big RPG that you can play on the Switch. There are games coming out, so when we say there's a summer drought, it's really kind of disingenuous. There are games that you can enjoy and play that are brand new, at least to some extent. It's just
none that you'll probably pre-order.
Nothing you probably pre-order. I never pre-order anything though, to be fair. But yeah, you're not going to get a Call of Duty. You're not going to get a video game that costs a whole lot of money and has a whole lot of promotion, and then it comes out in July. That's just not going to happen, and it really should though.
Well, one of the things that I think we're kind of with the big AAA companies, they can hire these analysts, they can hire people to crunch all the numbers and say, well, actually, it is in October that we should be releasing this game. And they're like, okay, fine, release it in October. And then you've got, I mean, one person that says, well, shouldn't be released in the summer. They're like, Reginald, will that give us profitability? And they're like, no. They're like, well, screw it. We're releasing in winter.
Yeah. You know, a big thing about this podcast, I think we should just admit, is that us going, we don't work in business and we don't know how to do it.
Hey.
But we know how to do it.
We know, all right? We know all. That's why we're here. That's why the people watch.
And you know what? I'm only half joking because, quite frankly, I do think that there's aspects to their research that they're not taking into consideration. And maybe
analytics are just really hard to do. When you've got so many variables and factors to actually deal with, you really have to go off of what you can measure. You know, so there's probably other factors that they know of, but it's hard to quantify. So it's hard to use some of those factors and stuff to actually say, we can track this kind of, market at this time period and da da da. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get that info. Because how many times have we all looked at surveys and stuff that came in our email or whatever and just went, hell no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So,
but I know, but sometimes it's like maybe you should just take the risk instead of releasing Rise of the Tomb Raider the same day as Fallout 4. Right? Sometimes it's like, okay, if you're
risk is a tricky thing.
Well, a risk versus like a guaranteed loss in that situation, right? So
I mean, go with like I brought up, The Last of Us. That came out like a week after E3. And you think, oh, but everyone's so concentrated on E3. How much did The Last of Us sell?
A lot.
Sold a lot of money with the PS4 right on its heels. Saying,
very well.
That there's no profitability in summer. Get out of my house.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm sassy today. I'm so sorry.
But then
that's right. E3.
Like I know someone would be saying, yeah, but they probably would have made more money if they released it during the fall. And that's sort of
and
the
they
problem
could have
with the
lost
industry.
all their buzz by the time it got to the fall. Also,
Yeah, but you can also make the argument. Well, this is the problem with the industry, though, because they're not happy with some of the money; they want all the money.
I have one word: guru. Listen to the guru. Ride the E3 wave, build the buzz, pop that puppy out in the summer, ride the wave into the winter. Do it, baby.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what? That's a good place to take a break, I think, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Shawn, do your thing.
Oh yeah, I'm the host.
Yeah.
So after the break, we will be continuing our discussion about the summer gaming drought and whether or not it's good or if it's bad. See you. And welcome back, everyone. Previously, we talked about why companies hate the summer months, why they don't want to do it, and we're here to tell them why they should. So,
BJ,
our guru, tell us why the gaming companies, why your Sonys, your Microsofts, your EAs, your Bethesdas, tell them why they should release their games during the summer.
Because I said so. That's all you need to know.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
Ding. Next up, Stephen Caves.
I should have never said anything. Because I said so. Can I do that too?
No, it's my mind.
No, because a lot of companies have games that typically won't fit the fall market or won't fit earlier because it's not ready, and the summer months should not be seen as like a time to just take a break when you have something that's already ready to go, or you have something that would fit the time, and it's not out of the question to have the game ready by then. There's people playing video games a lot during the summer because they can't go outside because they don't have the money for a vacation, or just to be all willy-nilly taking a trip to wine country or something for the shits and giggles or whatever.
Giggles and shits.
Yeah, and quite frankly, we all have like, oh, this is what I'm going to be playing during the summer. We just did an episode about that. It's not
which you can find on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/apiclespodcast. That's probably not what it is, but you know what?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's over there.
Yeah. Over there. Go to the first one. Yeah, and here's what I don't understand about the way that business is typically done with the video game industry, and that I know that you want to have like the most amount of money, but if you're going to have something where it's going to be cannibalized when you put too much stuff out during one period, wouldn't it make more sense to spread it out so that it can have a place where it can thrive? That's something that Capcom did with Monster Hunter World, and that game became its biggest release ever. Literally ever.
I still think it probably would have done those kind of numbers regardless of when it got dropped.
I think it maybe would have gotten lost in the shuffle if it had done like November. Like people who wanted to play Monster Hunter World would have been like, well, I also have the new Fallout, and I could get lost in that. That's got multiplayer now too. So
I think it had enough to it, and was anticipated enough that it would have done good enough regardless of when it dropped.
It probably wouldn't have made as much money as it did, though, and that's the point I'm making.
It's very possible.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making, though. I don't know. It just keeps going back to the idea that companies seem to want money, all the money, and they want it all right now.
That's why they're a company.
I don't agree with that. I think that if you want to be a successful company, you
make money.
Consistent money. Consistent money.
Here's
gotta maximize your profit.
And you were talking about like games being shelved all together, two games released at the same time. The game I always come back to is Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is a well-reviewed game. You talk to people who've played it, they're like, yeah, it's a pretty good game. It didn't get any negative reviews, but you see it constantly on sale. You don't see many people playing it all that much because it was released between a Call of Duty and a Battlefield.
Yeah. That one's even worse because that was EA cannibalizing their own game.
Exactly. Exactly. Right there. Even companies with even the same companies will say, we got to get them all out here. You spread your games out, especially your big shooters. Like Titanfall 2 is not a big name like Call of Duty. Yeah, put your Call of Duty, put your big banner and put it at the very end of the year, but get some of your mid-tier games, mid-level games, and put them on there.
I wouldn't call Titanfall 2 a mid-tier game, but it's not as big as Call of Duty or Battlefield.
Well, see,
more
here's
of a mid-tier name, I guess you would call it.
I see the idea of Titanfall 2, but Titanfall 2 kind of had two things going against it, and I don't think it had very much to do with the timing of its release, because Titanfall, Respawn Entertainment, they were basically people, or people from the whole Call of Duty ilk in Modern Warfare, and they started their own, their own company. So
I remember that whole thing that happened after Modern Warfare 2, and
exactly, their driver was to make the next big, Call of Duty killer. Mm-hmm. So that's why EA took them on. So their big driver was to compete with Call of Duty. So that's what they tasked them with. So that's when they were going to release, regardless of what was going on. So that was their aim.
Were they also supposed to take on Battlefield, their own game?
Anything that was in that time period, in that release period, that's what they were tasked to take on, And because if you think about it, even Battlefield isn't, I wouldn't necessarily always put Battlefield in the same bracket as Call of Duty, because it's its own animal. Because you got your core kind of players that play Battlefield, and you got your core players that play Call of Duty, because they aren't necessarily the exact same game, even though they are shooters. They're slightly different. They have their own different communities. Mm-hmm. But Titanfall was built specifically to go against Call of Duty. And the big problem that they had when they did it was, and you could kind of see it when it released, was there wasn't enough that they put into Titanfall 2 to really differentiate it, number one, from its previous game, mm-hmm. or from the futuristic Call of Duties that had recently come out and kind of bit some of the wall running style and everything. Yeah. So by the time Titanfall 2 dropped, people were just tired of the whole wall running concept and all that other kind of stuff. Mm. And, tired of half of the stuff they had already played on the other Titanfall. So it kind of lost its steam, not necessarily because of the time period, but because of their own doing, in a sense.
Well, that's just one example I can think of.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to sort of disagree with you there, because, okay, that is what Titanfall was positioned to be. You're absolutely right. They positioned it to be the next evolution of Call of Duty. So that's why going up against Call of Duty in that way kind of makes sense. And that would have made sense for Electronic Arts if it was what I think it should have been, and had been their third shooter that they could have been rotating between Battlefield and Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront, or Medal of Honor when they used to do that.
Yeah, poor Battlefront.
But that's not what they did. They decided to release both of those games at the same time, both Battlefield and Titanfall. And I know that, especially someone like you who's been playing Battlefield for a long time, knows that it's not the same thing as Call of Duty. Except it is now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It used to not be. But ever since Battlefield 3, they keep on going after them. That's the reason why you're getting Battlefield games every other year. If they could, they would be releasing them every year. And
I mean, they in terms of that kind of competition, yeah, but because of the way the gameplay is and the way that it's catered, there's still separate communities.
I know they're separate communities. I know they're not the same game, but they're not different enough. I can tell you right now that Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat are not the same game. But are they in competition with each other? Absolutely. They absolutely are. Doesn't matter that they're not exactly the same. There's many differences. Mortal Kombat has a whole bunch of dial-up combos where you just press these certain buttons in this order and you always get the same type of animations that will go together. Street Fighter, you don't have that. You have to figure out what kind of moves can combo into what other kind of moves, and you have to figure it out yourself. The difference is the dial-up ones are really easy, whereas the Street Fighter ones are harder, but the Street Fighter ones have more variety to them, and the Mortal Kombat ones have less variety. I know that as someone who plays a lot of fighting games. No one else is going to know that.
Yeah.
I understand that Call of Duty is more of a one-on-one type of thing. Battlefield has more working as a team and much more strategy to it.
Vehicle, the whole nine.
The vehicle stuff, a lot of open terrain, blowing up the the environment and using that to your advantage, taking down, defenses and stuff like that. Most people don't care about that. And most people just see they're both in first person
shooter.
First person shooter. They're both military based. Let's go. Yeah, let's see which one will win. And more importantly, if you're somebody who only has $60 to blow on a game, that's going to be close enough. Which one am I going to get? And same thing happens with Titanfall. I would argue that Titanfall actually has the most different about it because it's got mechs. Right?
Yeah.
The other ones don't have mechs. And that changes things up because you have a person that you control and can wall run and all the stuff that you can do in Call of Duty, but you also have the destructive terrain and also these huge freaking mechs that you can also use to take into play.
It's true.
All these three are different games, but they're all vying in the same kind of genre and the same marketplace. So when you put them together, only one is going to do well, which is why you got to spread them out. You can either A, have them in competition with each other, like EA's been trying to do with Battlefield, or you separate them, which is what I think they had to do with Titanfall, especially since they already had a Battlefield coming out.
And when did they release Battlefront? Didn't they release Battlefront in the holiday season too?
They released it this year. I think they're alternating Battlefront and Battlefield.
Mm.
Yeah,
that's what I feel like.
Poor Battlefront.
It's just too many. It's too many shooters for one time period. That's why it needs to be spread out.
One other thing I also realized.
Yeah.
A lot of games were delayed this year. They were coming out around about the summer or right around holiday season that are now being pushed back into February because one big game is coming out, and that's Red Dead Redemption 2. Mm-hmm. So when Rockstar comes in,
Rockstar changes the game,
places it on the table, says, "I'm going to be the game coming out this winter." They're like, "Okay, we'll give you some room, and you just put that away, and we'll take care of you." But that's the thing. Like,
I'm just going to say this because I keep thinking of it, and it's not going to get out of my head unless I say it. Dicks out for Harambe.
Okay.
Thank you, Steven.
Nice seeing you, everyone.
But that's a big thing. Like, you have a huge release like that. Like, a few years ago, Grand Theft Auto 5. You have this monstrous release, and you have to kind of make room for it because you release the game, around it. People are still going to be playing that game, or people are just going to be hyped for it.
Yeah.
If it's a week or two before or a week or two after. And if you have every single kind of game just releasing it around the same time, you're limiting your schedule to maybe a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas you spread everything out, you're less likely for that to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I think EA is its own animal because they have so many studios, whereas a lot of the other publishers, I don't want to say they have more freedom to do that kind of thing, but I mean, EA is just all around dumb with a lot of stuff that they do.
Well,
we haven't been.
When you get to like AAA, when you get to, I guess you'd say, franchises that are considered blockbusters that have that kind of pedigree. I'm trying to think which publishers have that kind of luxury that they would be able to space out their blockbusters, not just all their releases, but their blockbuster releases throughout the year.
Well, I wanted to. Yeah, Shawn, you just said that. We've been picking on EA because it's really easy to pick on EA, and they do this kind of dumb stuff all the time. But Ubisoft has made this mistake a lot too. Rayman Origins was released the same day literally the same day in November as I want to say an Assassin's Creed game.
Makes sense.
And that's the reason.
Well, they didn't see it as one of their blockbusters, basically.
But that's the reason
That's
why
the answer
Origins
for that.
didn't sell well.
Mm-hmm. They just
they
didn't even respect their own title. They were just like, "Oh, this is not one of our, blockbuster titles. Just go ahead and drop it when you get a chance."
Yeah, but that still doesn't make any sense. It wasn't Assassin's Creed. It was some other game. But more importantly, though, the other reason why another good reason of this being a bad idea from Ubisoft as well was Beyond Good and Evil. That game was released the same day as one of the other games from them as well. And that's the reason why it didn't sell well. It was, I think, it was another game that was like almost the same type of idea from them. Mm-hmm. It was like an action game, just like that's more well known.
Prince of Persia.
That might have been it. Let's see, 2003. Yeah, that would have been Prince of Persia: Warrior Within.
Okay,
that was a good game.
Sure.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
As someone who loves Sands of Time, that game is disappointing.
See, I didn't play that many of them. I played like the very first. I played like the very first one, and then I played that one. That was about it.
Well, I say it's not bad, but yeah.
Now I just want a new Prince of Persia game. Thanks,
yeah,
Scott.
me too.
Yeah, they were fun.
But yeah, this is another reason for why you want to be releasing during the summers, because you have, especially if you're a big company like that who has a lot of studios, who's making a lot of games, unless you're Activision because you've just stopped making games. Activision released 3 games last year. You're a multi-million, billion-dollar company. How are you only releasing 3 fucking games?
Because they're blowing all the money that they made off of Call of Duty. When you got that much money in the bank, you gotta spend it. And that's what they're doing. They're enjoying themselves. Leave them alone.
At least
if I was making that kind of money off of a little game like that, I'd be doing the same thing. I want to go Disney World too.
At least one of the games was the Crash Bandicoot series remakes. So, but when you're a big company like this and you have all these games that you have to release by all these companies that you own, you're not going to be able to squeeze all of them into about 2 months, roughly, because it begins towards the second half of September. And then you want to get them all out by the first half of November. So yeah, 2 months.
And then you have the late winter, basically January, February, March, where you have the video game dumping ground, where you basically have the games like, it's probably not going to do well, but throw it out there anyway.
Normally, I would agree with you, but that has not been true for some time now. There's been a lot of good video games coming out during that time. You have your Monster Hunter World. You have your Monster Hunter World.
Oh yeah.
Came out in January.
If you say Mass Effect Andromeda,
Mass Effect 3 also came out in March.
Yeah.
Oblivion.
Yeah, March has been like a hot month for maybe a good 5 or 6 years.
I actually know this. Every single year around my birthday, which is March 21st, there's usually a big game that comes out.
Yeah, they've strategically released some really good games in the whole March February timeframe. Yeah. Even
Mass Effect Andromeda was not good, but that's still a big game, regardless of whether or not it was good. Oblivion got released on my birthday. I remember that easily because of that. Dying Light
yes,
that came out.
That was what I was gonna say. Yeah, Dying Light
came out, I believe, in January. I'll also say a lot of Street Fighter games come out in February, so that's also a good time for fighting games.
And you said before
myself too, because BioShock Infinite also came out in March.
Yeah, Bioshock Infinite. Yeah.
March is usually when big games start finally coming out. But January and February have also now been getting some love too with Monster Hunter World. Last year was Horizon Zero Dawn that came out in February. There's another big game that came out in February this year too. I can't even remember it right now.
This year is last year. What you had, Horizon Zero Dawn and Breath of the Wild coming out at the same time.
Yeah, that was the very first week of March. Yeah,
but I noticed a lot of things. A common trend with a lot of these games are games that were slated for the holiday release, but were delayed into those early months. So that might be why you have that first stigma coming out. That was more of a dumping ground because you had a lot of, I don't know.
Well, you know what? Well, that's what I mean. You were
Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Yeah, that's another big one that was good. No, Shawn, you're absolutely right. That's what used to be the case back in like the last generation. There used to be a lot of games that would come out during these months that weren't very good, or big games that they knew were not going to do well because they weren't actually as good as they were hoping. So that's when they dumped it. Devil May Cry 4 came out in January, for example. And that game is now one of the better ones in the franchise. Soul Calibur 5 came out in January, and that's almost the worst one in the franchise if it wasn't for Lost Swords, which came out and was a free-to-play microtransaction mess.
But you know what we did? We turned that around. We turned it around, and now we got some more games releasing.
Yeah.
Some more big games, some more good games. So with
the beginning of the year is what summer should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly what I'm saying. Now that we're starting to like change some of this around, maybe that can bleed into that. Mm-hmm. So you see these big successes, these big games coming out in the spring, kind of drag them into fall or drag them into summer.
Yeah.
Extend some of that out. And I think with games like The Last of Us, and I know it's a smaller one, but like Sonic Mania and games like that, you are seeing kind of that bleed into the summer. Mm-hmm. Octopath Traveler. Yeah. You are starting to see that. And I think with the next generation of consoles, I'm hoping that, we start seeing less of that gaming drought. We start seeing big companies being like, summer's a gold mine. Why not release our games during June or July?
I could understand where, and I do think this would be true. I can see where a company might see that period, the summer period, and be like, well, we're not going to make as much money as we would in the fall. But the reason why I don't understand why games don't get released during the summer is because I look at the summer and I see how that can be making them much more money than they would if they released it in the spring. Right? Because you have more time and therefore more time to devote to video games in the summer. Because as we established the whole, we like to go outside and all that stuff, that's not really true anymore. What do you think, BJ? I'm not saying spring is bad. I'm just saying summer would be better.
I still think, from my perspective, the whole summer argument just leans more so towards E3 and just leveraging the buzz off of E3. And I do love what Shawn said in terms of, using E3 and Gamescom and a beta or whatever to continue your buzz and then extend it out into the fall when the prime shopping season is. But just there's just that nagging part of me that just thinks that E3 is so much of like a Super Bowl event type of moment for the video game industry. It has kind of waned over the few years. Yeah, it has kind of waned over the last few years, but there's still so much energy around it, and seeing all those trailers, seeing all those games and getting excited for games and stuff when was that, in the middle of June. There's just so much energy around it and talking about games then that I just can't fathom why more companies wouldn't put something like a Horizon Zero Dawn. A part of me is like, why wouldn't you? I know that, if you got your game ready, go ahead and drop it, in that Prime period, because that's another Prime period. But still, when they showed Horizon Zero Dawn at E3, you remember how geeked up people were about that game when they saw the gameplay at E3 and everything. Like, oh my gosh, what game is this? Oh my god, it's got Transformer dinosaurs. Oh my god, I gotta have this game. And then all of a sudden, you gotta have. Oh yeah. Oh, it's the new year. Yes, it's here now. Yay! I still think that buzz, that a massive amount of buzz right after E3, give it a breathing period of a few weeks. Just drop that puppy like a huge turd. Just drop it and just let everybody just smell it, take it in, just take in all the buzz, everything, just right then and there.
I do think also an open world game like that also would benefit the summer as well. Because you got a lot more time.
We're just being disgusting during this podcast. Absolutely.
I know, you just got to. You just gotta just let people smell it, take it in, just all of it. E3 is just, I just don't get it. I really don't. I've honestly never understood that trend. I mean, I know they've broken it from time to time, but just seeing it and feeling it, you know how that is. It just amazes me that more companies wouldn't take advantage of it.
Like all this says to me is it doesn't even matter the reason, whether it be because people have free time or they can work off the hype from E3. They should be releasing more big titles during the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I think because it's almost like you got your buzzworthy pre-order type hits that all of the gaming companies feel like are guaranteed hits for them. They released in the fall or whatever, right? And then there's sleeper hits. They're we're not kind of very sure, but we know we have a good backing for. They drop in like the February-March period. And then everything else, they just kind of go and just kind of drop them off here and there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I wonder why they wouldn't try to schedule one more sleeper hit or something like that has gotten some good feedback or whatever. Like you said, in the summer. Yeah. You give it a little bit of airplay or something like that at E3. Show that final trailer or whatever at E3 and say, guess what? 2 weeks is in your hands. Boom! Yeah. Drop that turd on your forehead and be like, take it. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
They could, because these things are planned out so much in advance. So a game gets greenlit and they go, okay, here's your budget. You have 3 years. We're gonna release it for the summer. Make sure you get it done by then. Now, and sometimes things get delayed, but not everything gets delayed.
Yeah.
It could definitely happen.
And you know what really interests me? And I think all of us can attest to this, that marketing for gaming has changed so dramatically just over the past 5 years, much less the past 10 years. And companies try to take advantage of that and try to figure out the best ways to market their game, to build buzz on games that they don't necessarily have buzz for, and it's hard, to the whole point of when people have time to play games, just look on Twitch. As many different full-time streamers and stuff that there are on Twitch and YouTube, it's hard to ever use that as an argument nowadays, Yeah. Because even if people don't necessarily have the time to play it, there's a lot of people that have the time to watch it. So at the very least, we're 100% certain that you got a ton of marketing people that are trying to figure out the best way that they can use those streamers. And I do use that word, very sparingly, use the streamers, to get that, I guess you could almost say, free publicity or whatever for their game. And of course, that's always dependent on whether or not their game depends on the online, community, or whether it's more of a single player experience. But still, they depend on that for their marketing strategy a lot more so nowadays.
I will just throw this out there too. I mean, I know it's a port, but it's still a really big game. Fortnite on the Switch was released in the summer. It was just released in June. This past June.
Well, on the Switch, yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the Switch. Even the original release was at the very midpoint of September, so it was just as the summer thing ended. So.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily considered a big name release when it dropped, though.
Well, this was.
It was kind of one of those. It was kind of one of those games that was just kind of out there, and people just, this is there. Yeah. It just kind of built. Its popularity built up. It wasn't necessarily boom, drop a megatom bomb.
And then PUBG built its stuff during the summer. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, but regardless, this is all an argument showing that the summer can work in some way.
So
summer can work.
Long story short, game companies release your games during the summer and hire BJ as a guru.
Yeah,
that's all we're saying. So I believe that's it, guys, for episode 9 of this.
Yep.
So, Esteban, Mr. Cuevas, aka Colorwind, what do you have coming up for us?
Oh boy, let's see. I'm gonna be streaming some more ukulele this Thursday at twitch.tv/HeyColorWin, or this is new, mixer.com/HeyColorWin. I've been trying Mixer out.
Get it out. It's working.
I was also trying YouTube, but it didn't want to freaking work.
Get on it, Google. What the deuce?
I've no, and you know what? Restreamo just did not want to do all three, and for some reason, YouTube was the one they decided not to.
Yeah, I've noticed that about Restream. I think with Restreamo, I think you actually have to pay for the third. I think the third one, I think you have to pay for.
Yeah,
I thought.
Tell me that if that's true.
Really? Because I know every time I've done it, I've only been able to have 2 when I do it. But whatever.
But yeah, be doing that. Let's see what else. More Alice Madness Returns. Let's Play. That's going up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/user/colorwin. That also goes up on my Twitch channel, and it also goes up on my public Facebook page, facebook.com/heycolorwin/videos. Gotta put it somewhere else because you can't rely on YouTube anymore.
Dang it.
You just can't. You just can't.
We love you, YouTube.
Not really.
All right.
And other than that, yeah, just follow me follow me on Twitter at
that stuff.
HeyColorWin, and all the other social stuff. It's everything that I do is basically at HeyColorWin. So you can find me.
Nice. All right, BJ Brown, what you got for us?
I am struggling. Okay. That's all I want to say. No, that's not all I'm going to say. You know me. I got many words. Dreamcade Replay. I am still futzing around with that Joker.
I saw the unboxing.
Yes. I actually got it out of the box, so that was a great step for mankind. Now I'm trying to set it up, and I've come to realize that you can't use the Bluetooth keyboard that you bought for it until after it's set up, because it's not the one that's licensed or set up by Dreamcade. Anywho, and of course I have a laptop and not a desktop at my house, so I don't know where my old USB keyboard is. If I had something else to throw at the camera, I would right now.
Just pick up the last thing you just threw if you can and just rethrow it.
I was about to throw a jelly bean, but that might break my camera. So I'm going to confiscate my keyboard from work and bring it home one night, set up my Joker so that I can use my Bluetooth keyboard, and then I will see if I can try to stream something, show something. In the meantime, I'm working on a little blog post on my personal blog site, I think it's just bunny3000.wordpress or something like that. Probably. I might post it someplace else. And I'm just going to list like the top 10 games that I am going to grab as ROMs that I actually have as arcade cabinets in my fantasy man cave of mine. Right over there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Over there. But yeah, I'm gonna have like a list of the first like 10 ROMs that I'm definitely going to back up on my Dreamcade replay.
Shawn, you're getting the short end of this. We have about a minute left.
Yep. Basically, Little Big Ham or Jonathan Studios. I've got a review of the new Uncharted fan film coming for you guys. I've also got a couple of Let's Plays and everything coming up. Finally getting back into the string of things. But you can always catch me here at the Shaded Pixels podcast. Make sure you follow us, like, share, subscribe, all that good kind of good stuff. And until next time, we have a special treat for you. So make sure you come back and see us.